Hello, and welcome to Outer Spaces, a podcast dedicated to empowering designers and contractors in the outdoor living space.
Through this show, we hope to create a powerful resource for you, someone who is trying to grow their company but might not have all the tools and processes to do so.
On Outer Spaces, we are passionate about breaking the chains of small mindsets and helping contractors just like you take control of their businesses and their lives. My name is Joshua Gillow.
And I'm Dwayne Drawn.
Through our 40 years of combined dirt under the nails experience, we look forward to sharing tips, strategies, and other contractor success stories here on the Outer Spaces podcast.
Without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Outer Spaces podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow, alongside Dwayne Drawn. What's going on, Dwayne?
What's going on, my man? Really good weekend. You know, the flying thing, I'm always giving you tips on how to get like the first class seats and all that. So, so what I do is when it comes close to this end of the year, if I don't hit the numbers that I need to hit, I'll do like a little BS trip, you know, like a Boston run or a Miami run, and they're low cost and run. So Saturday, Isabel and I decided to hop on and do a Boston run, not realizing that at the same time we were doing this flight is when those storms were going across America. Okay. Those big, huge storms. So we're getting ready to take off. Pilot, you know what I mean, fires that bad boy. You know, I get excited. Let's go. And he's like, yeah, just let you guys know we're going to be flying over that storm and just hold on tight. We're not going to have service. Dude, that was a wild ride, buddy. I mean, I knew planes can do that, but I didn't know they could go side to side, turn around and spin in circles and dip wings. He even went up to 40,000 feet to try to get over it just because it was so bumpy. And we made it to Boston and got to Boston. The clouds were so low, they couldn't even land. They had to turn around and try it again on another runway. And we actually saw the ground like as 200 feet off the ground before we landed. It was crazy. And my wife is like, wow, you're a sicko. I'm not doing this with you again. You know what I mean? This was a bullshit trip. And now you got me. My life is hanging on the line on a bullshit trip. You know what I mean?
Also, you can get status, Dwayne.
Just for status.
That's love right there.
We went to Boston for lunch. You know what I mean? It was a good day. We went for lunch and came back the same day. It was pretty dope.
I love it, dude. Yeah, those storms, they come ripping through here in Pennsylvania too. And there was like 40-mile-an-hour winds. It was so warm and knocking the lights out and knocking the trees down. But I'm glad you made it through, brother. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was a time when I was like, we got to go back. I'm like, you know how I love to fly, dude. Like I'll take routes all over the country just to fly for no reason. And that was the day, Saturday, I was like, man, we got to go back. Like we got to go fly back over that. And just on our way back too, it was bumpy all the way back. You know what I mean? Up until like maybe the last 30 minutes, it smoothed out.
That's awesome.
Pretty wild.
Well, today, guys, we got an awesome guest. You guys might know this guy. He's been 30 years in our industry, 17 years as a contractor out there slinging pavers with us, 5 years as a manufacturer of modular elements, and he'll tell us more about that here on our conversation. And he also has been working for about 8 years now with Belgard. So, without any further ado, Joe Raboyne, welcome and happy birthday, brother.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. I appreciate you guys inviting me on. I thought this would be perfect for my birthday, so I appreciate it.
Exactly. Perfect timing. I knew it. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Joe, you've been through, the industry a very long time now, and I'd love to get a sense of how you got into this industry. Is this something that kind of fell on you, or did you go into it? And, what have you seen over the years and what's coming?
Yeah, no, it's been fascinating. By the way, I can't believe it's been almost 30 years. Especially as my birthday today, I'm like, man, I'm getting old. So my family's always been in construction. My father's a carpenter. They build houses. They did in-ground pools, all of that when I was growing up. And so for me, it was in my blood. Somewhere along the lines in high school, I was convinced to try to go to school to become a chiropractor. So I actually went for pre-med. Which is crazy in hindsight, but eventually just decided that I love doing this and never really extended beyond that. Just started contracting with my brother, doing full masonry. And we started doing, I think we did our first anchor wall back in 91. And then we did some Holland stone patios. And back then that was really the extent of outdoor living. If you did a 200 square foot Holland stone patio in outside the Milwaukee area, we were in Southeast Wisconsin. I mean, that was a big deal to try to sell that. And so it's crazy just looking at the evolution of this industry in the last 30 years, I mean, it's actually unbelievable. And I still feel like we have only scratched the surface in where we're at. I mean, just incredible opportunities for everyone moving forward. And yeah, I mean, I love this industry. I think I can't imagine a better industry to be in. I mean, we create beautiful spaces where people that truly do impact people's lives for the better. We may not always look at it that way. You know, you could say, well, yeah, it's a luxury product, and we target the upper middle income, upper class, but what these spaces can do for those people still has the ability to affect and change lives. And I think for anybody who's been in this business a long time, I think getting to the root of why you're in this business, many people may not even know why. There's something that attracted you here. And I believe it's creating these spaces that really, I mean, there's nothing better than finishing a project up and standing there and, talking to the homeowner, and then even better, following up a year later and having them tell you about how much this has benefited their life. So, for everybody's in the industry, I know sometimes you get bogged down in the minutia, and it's tough to stand back and think about it that way because you're thinking about payroll and, equipment, and people are complaining and all that stuff that goes on day to day. But really, and especially now with the way the state of the world is and with what's going on, I think these spaces are needed more than ever. And there's a ton of research going into that right now. And I think there's an ability for us to frame in a better way how we approach the sale and how we approach design that can really develop spaces that are tailor-made for people and that they can use on a day-to-day basis, and that can really improve their lives. It's not just a frivolous, trendy item. It's something that is definitely, impactful in their life. So, yeah, so it's fun stuff. I mean, that's, look at the way, with products, I mean, that the level of creativity today compared to what it was even 20 years ago, it's just, I think, you look at what you guys are doing in social media and just all of that, you can argue that we're at a maybe not so great time in history, but there's also some really fascinating things happening with this kind of cross-pollination of ideas. I mean, it's been said, no one really has an original idea. We always steal and take pieces from other people. And I think that's great. I mean, the more that we're exposed to things, it just helps us as designers to do a better job overall and think about things differently through the lens of other people. So
I love that. And what do you think in the last 30 years, what do you think in the outdoor living world? You mentioned things being kind of basic and now being more customized. What else have you seen as far as transitions go from those Holland patio days to 2021 GIE knocked it out of the park display you guys had there? Like, how has that changed the needs from our clients? How has that changed?
Yeah, I think, and if anyone's heard me ever give a presentation, they probably heard me start out with this. I think in the last decade, especially, outdoor living has really become an expectation. It's no longer even a trend. People they're building a house, they're going to have an outdoor space. They're remodeling, they're going to have an outdoor space. It's not even a question in their mind. So it's really, that I think is one of the biggest fundamental changes. And we saw this coming, I would say even 5 or 10 years ago with a lot of the bigger national and regional builders, where prior to that, they didn't even want to talk about the outdoors at all. It was all indoors. They looked at it. And many would even say, well, if I sell that, they're going to take away from the kitchen upgrade, right? But what's changed is that they've come to us, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing this, saying, if I don't have this space in my house, people won't buy my home. And so that's you can see, to me, that's proof right there that this has changed into this clear expectation and just a greater awareness of what's there. I think with that being said, I still believe the vast majority of homes still don't have a quality outdoor space, and people definitely don't understand what's even possible, right? They have no idea what the costs are. They don't know what materials are, and I think this is the opportunity for us, for all of us, to become outdoor living experts, and whether or not you do the whole project or not. If you don't want to be the GC and do all of that's involved, then you need to align yourselves with other professionals who share that same vision, who are on your team, because most homeowners today do not want I mean, we're all homeowners, right? Or we all live somewhere, and most people don't like dealing with contractors. I mean, it's just the way it is, right? So if you design a space and tell them that they have to deal with 10 contractors to pull it off, they're probably not going to do it, right? So they're looking for people who are offering turnkey and who are doing it efficiently. So if you think about, they will pay more. And what's interesting with us is we employ all kinds of agencies to do studies. We're always doing research, and this is one of the number one things that comes back is that the process of buying our product is extremely painful. It's very confusing. It's time consuming. It's messy. It's expensive. And yet people still do it, which is to me digs to the heart of the why, right? Despite all that, people still want these spaces and are willing to wait and go through that pain of getting it. But for us, thinking through I continue to lump myself in as a contractor still, even though it's been a while. But I just think through that lens. But for contractors, I think that opportunity to really position yourself as the expert, and again, whether you do it or not, align yourselves. That's really the future. I mean, not to say there's not an opportunity for people who specialize in certain aspects. There certainly is. But when it comes to outdoor living in particular, you really need to try to offer the full turnkey solution to really tap into that full potential. At least that's what we're seeing.
Joe, I want to drop on something. Like you and I met, I want to say maybe 15, 16 years ago. We actually originally met at a Unilock. So I don't think the world knows that you're the mod guy. Like you're the guy who created that system and then sold it to Unilock, and then it sort of went over to Bellegarde and stuff from there. But we met at that event, and I flew out and came hang out with you guys up here in Wisconsin.
Yep.
At the time we met, you had went from contractor to manufacturer, and now you're upper echelon manufacturer. Operating across the whole country. How connected are you with the contractors as of right now? Like, do you still get to hit the ground floor? Do you still get to do the talk and do the sales and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one I think it's kind of funny that you asked that, because it's something that I still feel very strongly about. I mean, even at H&A, I'm there the whole 10 days. I'm working hand in hand with physically working with our contractors to build that display. I try to attend as many of our Bellegarde universities as possible. I really handle all new products. So when it comes to installations, for instance, here in Atlanta, where I live now, probably 3 or 4 times a year, I'm out actually working with contractors on new installations to help launch new products. So for me, it's critical to be a part of that, because, if you lose sight of that, what have we got? Everything we have flows through contractors. And if there's a problem with our products, I want to know about it firsthand. And I want to be able to speak to that, I've actually done this, and here's what I found, and here's some of the tricks and tips for it, or here's some of the issues that we're working through that, it's, and it's a humbling place to be, honestly, because I think back to when I was contracting, and sometimes you feel like there's a disconnect there, right? Like they don't, manufacturers may not be listening to what we're asking or what the issues that we have. But so I try really hard to make sure that I maintain that connection. And quite honestly, it's in my blood. Like I would literally go crazy if I couldn't go out and do some physical work like that. So it's important. It's just part of who I am. So
yeah. Now, Joe, what are some of the struggles that you're seeing contractors facing right now, and how is Bellegarde, positioning themselves to help them through those struggles?
Yeah, I would say it's funny, and we've said this internally. We've grown just a tremendous amount, obviously, right along with all you guys. 25, 30, 35%, and depending on the market over the last couple of years each year, which is insane, right? So we totally get the struggles with product. If anybody's listening, if like, man, you have been waiting on product for weeks or months in some cases, none of us saw this coming, right? So it's just an incredible time. And I would say across the board, we've talked to contractors and even internally, like it's been a phenomenal 2 years, but it just doesn't feel good sometimes, right? It's been a struggle, and not to disparage. Clearly we're all blessed to be in the position we're in, but it's a challenge, right? Getting product, keeping employees, equipment, just trying to maintain or even grow during a time like this is a real challenge. For us, thinking through, and again, for me, having had the privilege of being on multiple ends of this from, when we started with virtually nothing as a contractor to being part of a big company like Belgard and Oldcastle, just thinking through the challenges. I mean, labor is one of the things that, Dwayne, I think you said it earlier, like, I don't want to turn this into a discussion about labor. Labor is the crux of the whole problem our industry has. And so for us, everything we do, whether in all the way from start to finish, everything that we market, every program we develop, every product we develop, literally anything we do is through the lens of how can this help our contractors become more efficient? So that, and how can we recruit and train new people into the industry? I don't think it's news to anybody that, this is for all trades. The average age of many tradesmen's in their late 50s. There are thousands that are retiring daily and not enough going in. And there's certainly not enough going into our industry. I mean, at the end of the day, we sell heavy product, and not to disparage really anyone. I mean, I don't blame anyone, honestly. You look at what we do, like, why would I want to do that? It's super heavy. After 40, I'm shot. Like you said. And so I've had many conversations, even with really, I would say, high-end contractors that are, family owned. And I said, let me ask you a question. Would you, or do you plan to encourage your children to continue on with this? The vast majority have said, no way. I want them to go to school. I don't want them to do this. And I said, but so we complain about labor, yet we don't want our own children sometimes to follow in our footsteps. And I said, well, why is that? Well, it's just too hard. Like, everything about it's just too many hours. It's too physically hard. And so for me, it's disheartening, for one, right? And I would say, and I have 5 children too, and I've thought through, my wife and I've talked through this. Like, it's not an easy. Being in business is tough. Being in our business is very tough, because especially if you're in northern climates where you're not working year round. I mean, you've got a short window to work. It's a grind, right? So. But when you look at where technology is today, with equipment, with sales software, with rendering, there are lots of ways to become more efficient and set your business up where it could essentially run itself. And if you think about, or there's several things, it could any business, the goal of it is to sell it and bring value at some point potentially, or to pass it on. And you want it to run smoothly, so you need systems in place. And systems at every level, right? So I think for a lot of contractors, especially ones who may or may not have been in the industry a long time, it's a challenge to go try to find that information. We don't have a formal trade training program like an electrician, for instance. I mean, NCMA and ICPR are great organizations, but we still don't have a formal training process where you start out and you go through the whole process and become a master hardscaper. And I think, honestly, at some point we need that. I mean, we are essentially building outdoor homes with no roofs. I mean, everything that goes into a house is in an outdoor space, right? So they are extremely complex. But so for us, trying to tackle, number one, helping to make our contractors more efficient is number one, but number two is also recruitment. And when you think about recruitment, what can we do in terms of technology, whether it's equipment or rendering technology, all of that, to really entice the next generation to want to be in this industry, right? Because the tools are there. I mean, there's technology there with vacs and lifts, and one of the things we're working on is how do we pair ourselves or help develop our products around the use of the technology that's there when it comes to installation? Because in theory, you look at, there's equipment out there that, a 6-year-old could install this stuff. Like, we don't need to physically lift this stuff anymore. And quite honestly, we shouldn't be, right? If you think about, like, we should be evolving into tapping into what's out there. If we do that, and I think the challenge, and forgive me if I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, I think the challenge is in somewhat of perception even of how our industry has evolved and how I would say, I think there's a need to justify sometimes what we charge. So a lot of people break their bids out this way and will present it to homeowners, time and materials. Hey, it's going to be 200 hours. I'm going to be here 3 weeks. Man, this is a pain. And it's almost a way to justify what they're charging. In reality, the consumer, like I said earlier, is terrified of contractors, and in most cases are willing to pay a premium to get you in and out of there in a few days. So if you invest in equipment and can show, it's really this level of perception too, right? wow, this guy came in here with top-notch equipment. He knocked this out in 3 days. It's incredible. It was very little disruption versus somebody who's been here for a month who's doing everything by hand and wheelbarrowing. Like, it's just, I think as an industry, we need to look at how can we continue to elevate ourselves as professionals. And if we do that, this industry could probably be twice as big as it is today, right? I really believe that. I really believe there's just that much opportunity still ahead of us. So
Joe, I think we're actually just now getting started. If you ask me, like, you mean, if you give you a scenario, the basements, if you called somebody up for a basement, they all know they're going to be in 60 to 100K. Same thing for a kitchen. And when I was laying patios, you call for a patio, the average budget was like 6K, and you were all out rich if you got something for 12,000. And just recently, we were working on a project, and funny you said it's like building mini houses with roofs. I'm working on a job. We're finishing up one in Frankfurt, and it's close to 200K. And I was just talking to the client. I said, you got to understand. I said, you don't realize how much goes into this job. I said, this is actually like building a house. I mean, there's so many moving parts. There's so many things going on. It's the question that I have after all that long-winded stuff I said is, how are we getting contractors from just laying pavers to understanding architecture, styles, materials, colors, and just getting that type of work in the ground? Because that's really where the value is. I mean, I don't want to kill it, but dropping a paver patio in is actually destroying values, and it's been doing it for years. But how do we get them up to speed on the real outdoor living?
yeah, that's a great question. It's something, and you guys probably saw it at H&A, but one of the things and again, with technology, I think it's a fascinating time to be in this business. Is and I would say we're just as part of the blame here, right? Is that we as an industry have historically started and sold product. Like, our whole focus is product. We would come in, and when I was a contractor, I did the same thing. Sometimes come with 2 or 3 brochures. You drop the brochure in, you ask them where the project is, you start to go measure it. You spend very little time trying to understand why they even want this space and dig into that part of it. The reality is that the product the consumer is buying is the space, and the product itself is secondary. It's second or third down on the list, right? They're buying this space thinking, wow, I'm gonna sit out here and entertain. This is a great place to relax. And in a lot of ways, it would be like, and I use, if you use the house analogy, it would be like we're selling carpet before we've even shown them an elevation or an exterior, right? It's like, or the layout. It's like, what carpet do you want? Like, well, wait a minute, I'm not even sure what I even want for my house, but you're talking about the carpet. And as a manufacturer, that is a thought that's kind of foreign to us, right? So we're like, wait a minute, we sell product, we sell, but in the consumer's eyes, that's not the way they approach it. So one of the things that we launched this year that we're going to continue to build out is this idea of Belgard rooms, where we're segmenting the outdoor space into rooms. And we believe this will become the catalog of our future, what people will buy based on space. And then the product becomes ancillary to that, or you just backfill it with, it doesn't matter what it is within there. It could be porcelain, could be, some of our new pavers, geometrics, whatever it is. But we want them to focus on the space itself and how those spaces are used. And from there, they can use these spaces, stitch them together in a full plan, or even just take inspiration from it. And it does many things for us. And for number one, it helps bring focus to product development, because if you don't look at these spaces as complete spaces, you can easily miss gaps in the portfolio. So could be coping steps, and we clearly have gaps. I mean, I'll be completely transparent. We're working through that. But as part of that, we've replatformed our entire product line, where we're essentially everything's completely modular. Things are built out on imperial measurements. The thicknesses are the same, and there's consistency across product families. So what that does for us, it allows us to open up also a focus on color and texture, because we know color and texture are really the deciding factors, color in particular, for people when they finally make a decision. So,
Joe, another question is, like, say when you see like car commercials and other commercials, or even toys, they'll have the toy and then they'll have the environment around it. just like a car. You'll have a nice new car parked in a driveway, and you'll have the house, you'll have the building, you'll have everything. One of the things that I actually see with the brick paver manufacturers, and I won't say any names, I was actually going to work with one with the design, and their biggest focus was just to sell product, and I had to walk away. I mean, it was probably a really big deal, and I couldn't allow my why to do it. But one thing I noticed about the paver and manufacturers, and I saw it even at the H&A, they're never incorporating any other materials anywhere or anything. It's just use our concrete products and put them all over the place. And there's no like, hey, let's use some composite, fencing here, composite planter boxes, and then we'll have our pavers here. And they give this false narrative of this big concrete space that doesn't match the architecture. And I see it, it's over and over and over again.
Yeah, we see it often, in the industry where it looks like an explosion at the factory. It's like, hey guys, look, you've got everything in that parking lot to use for the outdoor living space. So you have segmental block and you've got those pavers. Have fun. Everything has to be a paver or a block. Go have fun, guys. And it looks like an explosion. And, you wonder why it doesn't feel like a nice, comfortable space to go enjoy. And you're right, Dwayne, for years, I've been in this industry over 25 years now. And for years, it was all about slinging brick, right? It was always about, hey, look my brick is shinier. You know what I mean? Or my paver is shinier. So now how many can you possibly stick in this backyard? And it was a game, and the manufacturers were focused on moving product and volume, right? So they're like, okay, you can use this. We're going to come up with a wall now that looks just like the paver. Now it looks like you have even more of it, not just horizontally, but vertically. And it makes sense from a business model, right? To sell volume. But the problem is the end user ended up getting screwed in that deal because it didn't match their house, to Dwayne's point. And a lot of the guys were putting it in, it wasn't holding up, and it gave us all a very big black eye. And now we've got to go back and fix that, and by retraining our buyers into what this whole thing of outdoor living actually is, because paver patios, nobody wants anymore. Nobody wants that shit anymore. What they want is an outdoor living space. They want an extension of their home. And you're smart as a manufacturer to be thinking about how do you fit into that narrative, and how do you start showing spaces like you did at the H&A and in catalogs and stuff, where you're showing the lifestyle that is created by these products, not the products themselves. I don't remember the last time I walked into a new home and the homeowner's like, oh, Josh, you got to go look at my new tile floor. And they just jump on the ground like totally like it's their favorite part of their house. It's a piece of the house. And that's how we've been selling outdoor living. Hey, look at all these pavers. Let me give you a manual of 1,000 choices. Which one do you like the most? They don't know what the hell they want. They're over inundated with the choice, and they don't make any decision, and they walk away. What they want is 2 or 3 options max. One that you say is the best choice because you're the designer and they're professional. And then they want you to say, okay, now let's lead this charge and build an outdoor room that extends the use of my house. That's what they're looking for. And so many are like, look, I've got a shiny brick. You want more shiny bricks? Lots of them in the backyard. I don't care where you want them. How many you want? And nobody wants that conversation anymore. They want you to figure them out, and they want you to create this space that knocks their socks off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you hear it all the time, and people, especially, and I would say this is true for everyone, but, like you talk about like what's driving the millennial generation. And this is, and especially during COVID with everyone, really is this idea that they're interested in these experiences. And we're so hungry for connection with nature and with, people again, that this is what we should be talking about, is how these spaces will affect their lives. And all the rest of it will come. I mean, they'll end up doing bits and pieces or maybe phasing things in. But if you come in, like you said, strictly focused on product, they're not interested, right? I mean, it's like selling, a used car salesman at that point in some ways, right? So,
yep. No, it's
but
so
are you
true.
seeing, Joe? Are you seeing the change in contractors, or what are you seeing sort of mainstream?
I think there is definitely a change going on in that regard. I think that the interest during COVID has afforded contractors to be more selective. I think we're seeing contractors that have, raised their prices, have really taken on projects that they want to do. And whereas before they would take anything maybe that came along, and are being more creative, right? I mean, you can afford to be a little bit more, creative or risk taking with some of this, whereas before you may not have. And I think, especially with supply chain issues, in some cases have had to have gotten more creative, maybe using products that were available that maybe they wouldn't normally have used, or, vice versa. Or like you said, integrating composites and metals and doing different things with screening and lighting and pergolas. And I mean, all of that. And I think, again, it kind of coincides with this extreme interest in outdoor living. So it's a good time to really get in and dive into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I talk to some contractors, sometimes they would actually like some of the stuff we were doing and like, they would like, I wish I was in your area, or I can't get my clients to spend this or spend that. And really it's no different. Like I'm not running any different. Maybe we are, maybe I'm just, people are seeing our marketing and stuff like that, and they know that it's going to be what it is, but still to have every single job that we touch in the 6-figure range, when you think about Joe, when we go all the way back to the beginning, I almost got to pinch myself. You know what I mean? Like that's freaking nuts, like who's spending this on their backyards? And it just seems like every single one is just, check, back to back to back. And what I'm learning is it's not the client per se, it's the knowledge that we were giving to the client, that was given to the client during the conversation. And it's I know you guys have the university. Are you guys teaching these contractors to have these type of conversations?
Yeah, that's definitely a goal. I mean, I always say it's funny. A lot of contractors put out, everything's filtered, right? We're all human. It's all filtered through your own experience. So I remember, I'm just as guilty going back in the day where you go up to a project and like, man, I can't, you feel like you're almost, you're embarrassed to ask for whatever, right? The sale and something, especially if if the price gets up there, but you got to really take your own hat off and look at who these individuals are. A lot of times you're dealing with people who are in the multiple 6 figures, sometimes 7-figure income. I mean, they've got, they're at a different level of income than you may be at. So don't filter it based on your own perception or your own experiences. Just come in there and design what you believe will be the best design for that client and just present it, and don't apologize for it. Just, this is what it is. And don't try to justify it through, it's going to take me 2 months, and don't do that. Just present it and say, this is what it's cost. This is what the cost is. And don't filter products. I mean, this is something we see common. I think because of the way a lot of people bid, they look at a more expensive product as being a detriment to the sale. Like, well, because for instance, like porcelain versus a standard paver, right? Well, that's going to cost $5 a square foot more. In the context of a project that's several $100,000 or even $50,000, to go from a low end to a high end product, and regardless of where it is in the spectrum, might add a few percent to the total cost of the job. It's not like, I think that's also a mistake, right? It's just like, look at the like you said, look at the architecture and the home style, look at this client and choose what you believe would be the best possible end result for that project, the design and product, and just sell it. I mean, that they are looking to you as the expert. They don't want you to say, well, I don't know, pick one, right? No, you need to be telling them that. Like, there's so many choices that it is overwhelming. So, and some people just don't feel comfortable, but you got to own it. Just come in and say, man, this is why I would choose it. That matches the roof. It picks up the color and the siding, whatever it is. They're waiting for you to present it that way. And I think if you can own that, and it may be uncomfortable at first, I think you'll find that people will gravitate and be like, hey, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. You might not know anything about it, but they're looking to you for that experience. Yeah, I think you'll end up with much better results, and, don't backpedal. I mean, you think it's, you're a professional and get what you deserve for it. And you got to view yourself that way.
Yeah, think about it. If the way I look at it and have for many years is, how would I want to be treated? If I had saved for years or built equity in my home and I want to take it out and I want to build an outdoor living space for my family, I'm finally to that point. We know our clients only buy these spaces maybe once or twice in a lifetime. So how would you want to be treated? What kind of experience would you hope for? What kind of questions would you want to be asked? What kind of things would you want to avoid? Right? The certain things that you're like, man, I hope that doesn't happen to me. Like, a project lasts much longer than expected, or doesn't turn out the way you want it to, or doesn't hold up, or hell, doesn't look good at all either at the end, right? So what are some of these things that you can help protect your clients from that they have fears of? And it's, into Dwayne's point earlier, it's about having that conversation with them throughout the process, starting from day one, about what do they truly want to create? And not what do you want to buy? Fuck the buy part of the thing. It's about what do you actually want to create out here? What is it going to take to make it a space that's going to make a big impact in your life by making a comfortable, usable environment that your family is going to use on a daily basis? That's the big question. So what does that mean? Does that mean a built-in fire pit or a fire table? Does that mean a fireplace? Does that mean none of the above? Is that a water feature? Is that a pool? Is that a patio or a deck? Is there a roof involved? Is there sun problems? Like getting into that kind of conversation like you're a detective. Each and every project, you're a detective. And you go into this thinking, okay, well, we got to figure out and unravel this case because ultimately our goal is to make sure we can land a project on these guys that is going to impact their life and really give them that maximum use and comfort. So what is that? And everybody's slightly different. We all know the 3 zones, grilling, dining, and lounging, are super important. We have to have those in the backyard to be considered a finished outdoor living space. But some people, a grill is a simple stand-in-place grill. And others, it's a full-blown $50,000 outdoor kitchen. It's a big difference. Some people, for dining, it's 4 top, and that's plenty. Others, it's 8 to 12. Or multiple locations. And lounging is the same way. It could be a few people and a glass of wine. It could be board games. It could be that living room feel. It could be something more natural outside. But having that kind of a conversation and opening them up, you'd be surprised. And I know you already know this, Joe, but to the listeners, you'd be surprised how numbers start to just fade away. You start because you're coming into this conversation with your own hangups on money. Your own preconceived limiting beliefs and all that on money. Your clients most likely don't have that problem. Right? They probably have plenty of cash sitting in the back and they're not spending their last $2 on outdoor living, guys. This is the extra money they have laying around that they have been saving for something like this. This is a success purchase, something that say, look, this is like the Ferrari to them. Look, I can afford this for my family, even better than a Ferrari because they can actually have the family in it, right? But this is a space that we can actually get together and I can not just from an ego side and show off what I've done, and how successful I am, but as a family member, to provide a space like this where they can create those memories, that's a bigger piece, but they don't see the numbers as much as you do. So when you go in trying to undercut the other guy or make it a transactional conversation versus a transformational conversation. I mean, Dwayne and I talk about that all the time. That's the biggest difference. If you're going in with one mindset versus the other, think about how different your conversation is going to be. How much can I sell them versus how much value can I possibly give them to come up with a solution together? It's a gigantic chasm between the two. In the old days, it's all about peddling product and 600 square foot patios, and maybe they'll go to 700. I'll make some extra money today. Not giving a shit whether their patio furniture fits or whether it makes sense with the architecture of the home or whether there's a seamless transition or materials that match in. It was all about just moving product. Well, nowadays, our buyers are much more sophisticated. HGTV might piss a lot of people off because they tell us a lot of crap that isn't real, but it set the tone for people to really value a designer look. And the cool part about design is it can be whatever the hell you want it to be. As a designer, Dwayne has his own style. Joe, you have your style. We have our style. Everyone listening has their own style. That's the beautiful part about this. You can put your thumbprint on things. It doesn't have to be the way we do it. It's just you have to think about certain philosophies when you're laying it out to make sure you get the maximum use and comfort, because that is when they'll dig a little deeper and create that space that they're always going to love. So think about that, not transactionally, transformationally, and you will unlock an incredible amount of value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, no one wants to be sold, right?
That's right. Everybody wants to buy, but nobody likes to be sold to.
No, it's true. And I think it's easy to, again, it's easy to get caught up in it where you've got, I'm going to knock out these 2 or 3 consultations tonight. I got to get home. I got, but you're not, so to not spend enough time asking those questions, I think. And if you actually start to try to filter out some of those and really do some pre-selling up front and really filtering, you can afford to spend more time with those clients that are willing to do that. I think you're right. I think most people are willing to do it. I mean, if you've done your homework up front and they're not just kicking tires, somebody's ready to make a decision like this, carve out a couple hours to spend there. Don't try to rush it, right? And really understand them, and then come back and present a design. Don't just, hey, I'm going to email this to you. I'm like, go back and explain why you created whatever you created. And that's the experience people are looking for. Absolutely. And when you look at the companies that are providing that experience, those are the ones that are doubling and tripling their growth over several years and have endless clients waiting. They'll wait months, 6 months, some cases, to get them to do that project because they know that it's worth it. So.
Sounds like VizX, a master plan.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
but it's a matter. it's helping people get the tools to be able to have a conversation. To your point, Joe, if you're chasing every lead coming in the door, right? It comes in, it lands in your cell phone probably. You're trying to answer it while you're laying pavers, and you're like, all right, cool, I'll be out Thursday. You don't have the time to go through and do anything with those clients. Like you don't have a chance to build a rapport, get into the depth, ask them the questions, explain who you are, what you aren't, and talk about budget. You don't have time for that because you're trying to run 100 miles an hour. And what I recommend everybody to do is go to Craigslist, spend $50 to $100, get an old iPhone, cell phone, whatever, keep that thing chained to a desk in your house. Go to AT&T. It's $15 a month in a family plan. You can put a line to it with its own designated number. You advertise that number. It goes to your office. You leave a nice message on that phone that says, hey guys, we're out building awesome outdoor living spaces. We can't wait to talk to you about yours. Leave a message. We'll get back right in touch with you in the next 24 hours, whatever. Next step, they give a call. You're ready. You're sitting at a desk. You're mentally prepared for a phone call, and you reach out to them. Hopefully you don't have to leave a message. If you do, you schedule something and you have a call, but it's on your time, right? That's what professionals do. They don't shoot off the hip when they're 6 foot deep in the dirt and the mud in a skid steer trying to make phone calls for $100,000 projects. You wonder why you get stuck in $6,000 patio land, because you act like a freaking contractor. If you just professionalize your front lines, even if you are still in the field, there's nothing wrong with that. I was there for many years, but professionalize your front lines. So at least you give the impression that you have some order. People will pay for process, because process equals confidence and also equals certainty. And people with money want certainty. They don't want somebody shooting off the hip all the time. So when you have a process like this laid out where they call, they leave that message, you come back on, say, every Tuesday and Thursday, you come back for 2 hours in the afternoon, you just do phone calls. You have a sales process in place. You work through them on the phone. Spend 20, 30 minutes with them on the phone. You'll know within that time whether you're going to actually have a viable client that is ready to go, loves what you do, totally on board, ready to write you a check, or whether you've got somebody kicking tires that's got 15 other guys coming out to give them a bid. You'll know that within 15, 20, 30 minutes at max. And then when you go out there, you say stay out for a couple of hours. My average time frame with a client on site is 15 to 30 minutes, sometimes 45 if they're yappy. But I've done all the pre-selling and all the work on the phone. So by the time I get there, it's, hi, how you doing? Let's take a look at the space. Where's the check? Right? So it's a quicker move, so that you can be out there and we don't do measurements after the meeting. Personally, we don't do that. We come back at a later date when we're closer to the design phase, because to be quite honest with you, after I'm done with that, and then to go out and take measurements and then go to another site and then do that all over again, it's exhausting. You're not in your A game. You're not going to hit 6-figure projects if you're fucking around in your C game. You have to make sure you get that laid out. Then you line up 3 or 4 or 5 measurements in a day, and you go out there and you put that cap on, and all day long you just focus on those measurements. You start systemizing these things, and that's how you build that conveyor belt of awesome projects that your clients feel that process and that system in place. But so often shooting off the hip, phone in the mouth, on the ear in the middle of the skid steer and truck when you're trying to fill it up with diesel, doesn't cut it, guys. You're going to be stuck where you are forever until you change your process.
100%. Yeah, and establishing boundaries, especially today. I mean, I stopped contracting right before really the explosion with social media and even smartphones, right? 2007, 8. I can't imagine what some of you guys go through today with text messaging and all this. Like, you just have to shut it off. I mean, and the most successful contractors we deal with, they just literally like, no, I'm done. This is my time. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, shut it off. And as soon as people know that you have that boundary, I do believe they respect you more as a professional. Like, they don't, if you're a doctor, you're not answering phone calls 8 o'clock at night, dentist, like you might if there's an emergency, but in our business, we're not saving lives here, right? I mean, nobody's going to die if we don't get back to them that 9 o'clock at night. They can wait till it's business time and talk through them. So
yeah, Joe, the reason why that happens in our industry specifically, where, owners and contractors get beat up by homeowners that are texting them and calling them at all hours of the night when things are on their mind, is because we let them. We don't establish those boundaries. They text us at 10 o'clock at night. We want to get that project. So this is pre-check writing, right? So you're like, shit, I got to be on my best behavior. Okay, I'm going to answer them tonight because that might mean we're one step closer to a check. So you're like a dog waiting for a treat, and you're like, okay, 10 o'clock at night, and pretty soon they send you that check. And then the next night they text you at 10 o'clock and you don't answer them. They're like, oh shit, they forgot about me. You know what I mean? You set you're your own worst enemy. You have to, no matter what, whether you're in the beginning of the project, you're waiting for that check, you're at the end of the project, you've got to have a very common understanding of what your standard of communication is going to be. If it's between 9 and 5, then that's what it is, regardless if it's before the project check, before all the way through the project or to the end, that's what it is. If it's not and it's something different, that's fine, but don't adjust it. I'm guilty as hell of this when I first started my business. I'm like, all right, this is going to come through. Mrs. Jones has a question. It's 9 o'clock at night. I'll answer it right now because that'll mean tomorrow we're one step closer to that check. And as soon as she was done, I felt like I couldn't get out of that. Mrs. Jones expected me to be there. And then my mind's like, oh, well, if I don't answer her, she's going to think I forgot about her. And then she's going to hate me when I get to site. It's going to make the whole job shitty. Oh, I can't do that. Pretty soon you feel like you're just being used the whole time because she's thinking, oh, 9 o'clock at night, the kids are in bed. This is great. This is the time I can, decompress from the day and think about this project. And you're like, why is she bothering me? I just want to go to bed. It was all started because you didn't have established boundaries. It's that easy. So you've got to realize that your own worst enemy at that point. Set your boundaries. And if text is not the way you want to communicate with your clients, and say email or phone call or whatever it might be, and set that expectation. You're just set it and go.
Yeah. Joe, when you're developing these new products, how often are you guys bringing the contractors in to really get feedback? Is it just on the ground, or are they actually coming into the facilities?
So we have a contractor advisory board that's made up of at least one contractor by each of one of our individual companies. So we meet with them physically 3 or 4 times a year. And then we usually generally have a monthly call, but we'll bring them in for focus groups. We do external focus groups too with other contractors and designers as well, really on the front end of the phase gate process. So if we think we have an idea that has legs, we'll bring this group in. And really this is happening all over North America and Europe. We've got European divisions as well. So sometimes we have products that just never go anywhere. They look at it like, this is crap. Here's why, right? Or generally what happens is they give us really constructive feedback and we modify something so that's better. So we're still, like any company, we still have a ways to go in some regards with that. But we've involved, and we do the same, ironically, even internally now, with our own sales teams, with our production people. Historically, sometimes it's easy to operate in a silo, right? Where you're not gathering input from like we may think it's the greatest thing in the world. And it goes to production, like, we can't make this thing. Here's why, right? There's like things like that. It's been fascinating again, coming from the other side as a contractor into this side and understanding kind of how all that works. But yeah, I feel like we're in a good spot. We're constantly looking for collaboration. If you guys ever have ideas for products or where there's misses or there's quality issues, we want to hear it. If we don't hear it, we're never going to change it. And you guys are the feet on the street, right? I look at it like, it's like an army, right? You've got all the soldiers and everyone's out on the ground. And if, none of the data gets back to the generals and in some of the regards, you can't change some of that stuff. So, but yeah, so communication is key for sure.
That's awesome. So Joe, here we're getting toward the end of our conversation. Is there anything else you want to drop on our listeners? Anything future coming or anything you've found in the last year or so that has really helped contractors, be more profitable or to better serve their clients?
Yeah, I think, and I touched on this early on, there is so much data and so much research that's happening around really the neuroscience of design. And this goes inside and out about how design, how quality design can really impact people overall, like their everyday health and well-being, with where they work and where they live, all of that. And I think it's really easy for designers to focus on beauty and trend, but beautifully designed spaces, and this is where we're just as humans just really discovering this idea that well-designed spaces really do make people happier, and there's a lot of science behind that. So when you look at, you've probably heard, biophilic design, this idea of kind of merging the built and natural world. But when you think about these spaces, again, people need this connection with nature. We are in the outdoor industry, right? And people people want to be out there. They know what makes them feel better. There's research and data behind that. So I think for all of us, we have an opportunity and really, I would say even an obligation to understand this, because we are building spaces where people live and work. I mean, everything about what we do affects them on a daily basis, right? It's easy to look at it again in this superficial, trend-driven, product-driven lens, but there's something about well-designed spaces that just fundamentally can change people. If you think about, it's kind of like looking at a beautiful painting. Like it's almost universal. Somebody look at a painting and go, God, that's beautiful. Like, a Rembrandt, a Monet. Well, what is it about that that's beautiful? And that's where science is really digging into that and try and understand why certain spaces make people feel a certain way. Like if you think about an outdoor fire pit, right? That's really well designed. Maybe it's got some seat walls, maybe just the setting with where it's situated in the yard with the plantings. People would come into that space and just unequivocally say, God, there's something about this space that just makes me feel so good, right? What's happening in our brain that's making them feel that way? And that's what to me, that research is absolutely fascinating. There was a design summit actually that just happened at High Point a couple months ago. And Mike Peterson, who used to be the editor of House Beautiful and Lux Magazine, is really driving this conversation. And to me, it's absolutely fascinating. So for us, he's driving it more from an internal design perspective about how to bring the outdoor in. Well, we're already outdoor. So how can we work more closely with builders and architects to understand this? And if we can understand that, I mean, we have the ability, and again, the obligation, almost a stewardship to really to be advocates for this and experts in this idea, because people need it more than ever, right? So,
absolutely, I love that. You're so right, because the nice part is that we can create spaces outside that are comfortable instead of just sitting on a rock somewhere in the sunshine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you can be in a comfortable chair and still in the sunshine, feeling the wind in your hair and grounding well with bare feet and getting the earth energy, and being able to do all of that in a space that reflects what you love inside of your house, but outside. Who wouldn't use the space daily?
Speak for yourself, man. You drink enough alcohol, man. That rock feels good.
No, I hear you, brother. So, Joe, how can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there. You can also email me if you ever have an idea that you want to, float by me. It's at joe.raboyne@oldcastle.com. I mean, I'm an open book. I mean, I love talking to contractors, designers. I know people from all over North America. I love that. So feel free to reach out anytime. And I appreciate you guys taking the time and giving me this opportunity.
Joe,
I appreciate it, Joe.
What is your position at Oldcastle Bellegarde? Like, I know we talked, and I remember you went over there, but I people ask, like, I don't know. He just does shit.
Yeah. So I'm the director of Bellegarde Residential, so really overseeing product design, sales and marketing. I work closely with those teams. I run a design team here with Bellegarde Design Studio. I get involved in trade shows and all that, but really I'm helping to guide the ship and where we're headed with Bellegarde on the residential side. So
okay,
that's awesome. That's awesome, brother.
Dope.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I appreciate it. And I want you to enjoy the rest of your birthday here. And sounds like you have some dinner plans, which will be really awesome. So go out and enjoy that. Hopefully they spoil you for sure. So guys, if you found value in what you've heard today with Joe and our conversation, tell some of your friends about it. Share the podcast, shoot someone, over right now and say, hey guys, listen to this. Cause you know what, our goal is to impact and empower 2 million people in our, contractors in our space in the next 5 years. And Dwayne and I are already, so far into that. It's incredible to see how fast you guys are helping us move through this. And it's so much of a privilege and yeah, I can't even think of words right now. It's just so amazing, but to be able to get out there and help and start a conversation so that people realize that they're not islands out there. I know for years I felt like an island in this industry where I had to kind of figure it out on my own. And there's just so much help. There's so much collaboration out there. Just reach out to anyone you hear in the podcast, Joe included. And, if you have questions or you have ideas for products, I mean, just let's all open this industry up and make it even better than it is now. And in 10 years, 20 years from now, we'll look back and be like, holy shit, wow, everything changed so quick. And, COVID is such a benefit to us when it comes to people being stuck home and really evaluating their space more and thinking about how much more they want to try to squeeze out of every square inch of property they have. And we're sitting in a beautiful position for that. So again, I love and respect all you guys. Thanks for listening. Joe, thanks for being here with us. And we'll chat with you next week.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Take care.